Okay, guys, time's up. So basically, we are talking about a balance of trade deficit. A stronger dollar enlarges, the deficit. Why? Because our exports go down. The weakening of the dollar basically, decreases the trade balance of trade deficit. Why? Because of increase in exports. Or you can just write it down. Number one, stronger dollar because of less exports, weakening of the dollar because of increase in exports. That's it, right? So, anyone who still have confusion? Florian, Kathleen, Lota, Crystal, Ethan, Fabian, Haley, Janlap,
No,
Marilyn,
I don't confusion. Sorry.
Nimesh, Pimping, Min. No more question? Okay, let's move forward. Now, friction regarding exchange rates. So, this is like why then countries they are not decreasing their currencies. Why we see, look at the Kuwaiti dinar and Saudi riyal and all the stuff. Their values are still appreciating. So I just remember the world most expensive currency is Kuwaiti dinar, not the pound, not the euro. It's Kuwaiti dinar. Why is that? So Kuwait basically exports oil. They don't have other, major industries. They export oil, right? Even then, their currency is so strong. Why is that? Why they don't decreases their currency so that they can export more oil, right? The thing is that there are some frictions, there are some limitations, there are some phenomena that you cannot, that's not in your hand. For example, so all the governments cannot weakening their home currencies simultaneously. The winter is coming and people would be needing more oil, right? For heating, the demand for energy increases. So that doesn't mean that, okay, then every country start decreasing their home currencies. It cannot happen. If that's happened, then we are again on back to square one. Nothing gonna change. If all decrease their currency, then again we don't see any kind of improvement in our trade deficit. Plus, the second one, actions by one government to weaken its currency causes another country's currency to strengthen. So if you increase the value of yuan against dollar, then dollar value will depreciate. Or if you appreciate or if you depreciate the value of yuan, then what happened? On the other or contrarily, not contrarily, the support is that if you do one currency decrease, other currency must appreciate. If you increase your currency, then other currency must depreciate, right? So you cannot do for like just one, you know, currencies like that. So the scene is, you cannot do that. Okay, for example, you cannot do that. Okay, my currency Chinese cannot say to the America, okay, only Chinese yuan is depreciated against only dollar. It can never happen. If country is depreciating its currency, so it's depreciating against all the currencies as well. So if your home currency go down, it means all the foreign currencies start up, but of course with different amount, not with the same amount, but different amount. We will look at the formulas, how much in our coming lectures. But remember that it's not like focusing on just one country and you can just claim that, okay, we have just decreased our value of currency against just one country. No, you cannot do that. The third one, government attempts, let me, highlighter would be a nice, not highlighter. Right. So, governments attempt to influence exchange rates can lead to international disputes. Have you heard this kind of stuff? Guys, can you give me the example? International disputes. We just discussed there is a trade war between China and
Oh yes.
America.
Yes.
Please, Lota.
America has commented on how China has a fixed exchange rate, how they can purposely change the value of their currency.
So it's, for example, from the last, I think, 2 to 3 years, it is in the social media, in the mainstream media, in your economics news, in your business news, and in your currency market news. Everywhere they have invested so much for this, to spread this kind of news that China is manipulating its currency. The real value of Chinese currency is that they should make at least equal to dollar, but they are not doing that. They are purposely decreasing the value of yuan. So that kind of argument is challenged in international courts as well, right? So I think we have that. Yeah, we have that arguments here as well. So the government's attempts to influence exchange rates can lead to international disputes. The examples, let's talk about this. So US exporters and government officials also frequently claim that the Chinese government maintains the value of yuan at an artificially low level against dollars. That's what their argument, and published in Time magazine, Economist, and all those stuff. They have plus politicians jumping into that one. Economists, they jumping, different financial analysts, they talked about this heavily. I would say that the Wall Street is very, actively participating in these kind of arguments and spreading this kind of stuff. And also they challenge this in courts as well. So what they are demanding, they're demanding that, or they are suggesting that a Chinese government should revalue yuan upward in order to correct the large trade balance deficit with the China, which at that time more than 400 billion US dollar. In 2008 to 2011, it was more than 400 billion dollar, and now it has, of course, increased more because the world economy has worsened after 2011. So when US economy was very weak and US government officials were searching for solutions to stimulate the US economy, some government officials believe that if the Chinese yuan is revalued upward, US exports would increase and US imports would decrease. Consequently, more jobs would be created.
Mais moi, tu sais que tu me gênes à chaque fois. Choisis ton moment.
Florian, please turn off your mic. Florian? Okay. So, what they are suggesting to basically solve their own problem, they blame the Chinese government that our economy is not going to be better unless you increase the value against dollar. So that is also a little bit more directly pointing out the other country that you are responsible for our economic crisis and this kind of stuff. So then what happened? They have a very counter argument, very legitimate argument from Chinese government. That is, however, there are valid counter arguments that should also be considered, that Chinese government might respond that the trade imbalance is highly influenced by difference in cost of labor between countries. So you can see that minimum labor in United States is more than like $2,000. In New York, it's like $2,500. In other parts of states, it's like more than, unskilled worker is doing some job, they are given at least 2,000 US dollar. But here in China, it is not $2,000, right? It is, for example, 1,500 to 2,000 yuan, or maybe 3,000 yuan maybe 4,000 yuan in Shanghai. But other parts of China, this is less than even 1,000 yuan. right? So the cost of labor is very low in China. So they can argue that, okay, our yuan is low. Why? Because our cost of production is very low. So that's why our imports, sorry, our exports are higher. So it costs us less to produce the goods, and then we export to the countries. They are happy to purchase from us. Plus, the valid argument, the most valid argument was that if government revalued the yuan upward in order to make its product much more expensive for the US importers, does it mean that US importer will not buy from China? They will buy from other countries. If Chinese yuan valued upward, right? So the US importers, they won't come to China, they come to Vietnam, Korea, and other. So basically you are increasing your problem not with China, you are settling down your problem with China, but on the other hand, that problem is going to be spread to other countries. You are importing from Japan, so your trade, balance is going to be widened from Japan, widened from Vietnam, widened from Korea. So that is baseless argument that we are responsible for your economic, this bad shift or something, right? So let's read that. If Chinese government revalued the yuan upward in order to make its product more expensive for the US importers, then the US will shift the purchase from China over other countries where the wage rate are very low, such as Malaysia, Mexico, Vietnam. And if the US consumers shifted their purchases to these low wages countries, does that mean that US government officials will argue these low wage countries that they need to revalue their currency to reduce the US balance of trade deficit? Like you are fighting with China, and then you have to fight with Vietnam, Mexico, Malaysia, and other countries as well. That is baseless. So that's why they don't have any kind of conclusion, and this dispute is like still occurs, and so they are doing different kind of stuff, trade wars, and developing strategies to undermine this kind of stuff.
So,
now,
I have a question.
Sorry.
Do you think it's possible only between two countries? For example, this example is like between US and China. Can you have an agreement which when we do or trade anything together, we have our own rate of exchange? Is it possible?
No, it cannot be possible. Because we are now a global economy, we are connected. So if you change the currency from one another, it means it's not going to happen. If you decrease your currency, it means other currencies start rising, because we are following one financial system. It's not like that you have a different financial system with America, you have different financial system with other countries. You cannot do that.
It's like we just agree on one number.
No, we cannot do that. We cannot fix it. If you want to fix it, then fix with all other currencies. Then the other countries start blaming you.
The thing is, like, for the money rate, it changes every microsecond, so I will never fix it. We can write on a paper a number and we just agree on it, but I will never fix it because I cannot check continuously. Like, I cannot check.
We will see different, currency exchange systems we'll talk about over there. But there are other stuff as well. If we fix it, then it's between you and me, between companies. We call this agreement, we buy some futures, we buy derivatives. We'll talk about this stuff in our coming lectures.
Okay. What was the name?
Market is still there. Market is fluctuating, but you and me, we decide to fix it. Right? This is futures, derivatives, options.